Hi, thanks guys. Should I do this from up here? It's too hot. So yeah, I'm Mauricio. I head product for Midnight. Midnight is a new blockchain partner chain to Cardano that just announced testnet. And I'm going to talk a little bit about why we're building Midnight and in what context this is relevant for us in Web3 and in general. Yes. Okay. This is your data in the internet today. It's leaking a lot. And it's leaking to the tune of these numbers. These numbers, yes. You've probably seen this picture somewhere in the internet. This is the amount of data that is produced every minute during the day. And this is probably outdated because it's so much more. And now with AI, this is probably exponential. And the fact of the matter is that for the last 20 or 30 years, we pretty much gave away our data in exchange for not great services. We got used to. And when the service is free, the product is you, or us, right? It's our data. We get commercialized and we have no say in this, right? And at some point, we said, well, we need to reclaim our data. Let's do that. Let's get ownership on the internet and enter blockchains. We're here in a Web3 event. We're talking about blockchains all the time. We had just a hot take on situations around blockchain. All the keynotes and panels this morning, in one way or another, touched on the aspects of blockchain, right? And up until now, we had 3 generations of blockchain, right? We had Bitcoin was the first decentralized exchange of value, store of value. We had a second generation where we introduced programmability. Oh, programmable money sounds amazing, right? We have decentralized programmable money. And then we entered the third generation of blockchains with scalable chains that are decentralizedly governed. And we're all in public space, all public infrastructure, all of them permissionless. So in this context, in general, this is how a decentralized application runs on these blockchains, right? You have a user, they send their data to the blockchain. The data is publicly recorded, so everyone can see it, everyone can audit it, and everyone can also see and audit their metadata. And the companies using those systems and those applications also have access to all of that. So everyone that has an eye on the blockchain can see what's going on in the blockchain. It's super transparent, but has downsides, right? When, I don't know where to point this. Yeah, so when we do this, when we record transactions on the blockchain, we automate a bunch of stuff, and all of that data gets recorded on chain. And over time, you can start to derive information from all of that data. So the companies are still collecting sensitive data or strategic data, and the process of recording that data as the businesses go create a lot of public metadata that creates the possibility of inference. And even if you're pseudonymous operating on a blockchain, over time that describes your behavior. Your behavior is you, as Facebook already learned. So why we're building Midnight? We're entering a 4th generation of blockchains, and we're introducing, on top of everything that the giants built before us, computational privacy. This is a way for us to programmatically and deterministically provide privacy as we transact in the public space on the blockchain. So it changes a few things on how we build for that, because we're bringing utility without opening up sensitive data. Utility should not come at the expense of sensitive data or strategic data or commercially important data. So when you build for privacy, when you build for computational privacy, what you have is a collection of new devices. Instead of sending your data over the internet, you now can resort to things such as zero-knowledge proofs that will help you wrap your data into a cryptography format that you can send over the internet. And you're sending proofs about your data. They describe the data you're transacting with without actually exposing your data. So that data never leaves your device. The only thing that leaves your device are proofs that describe your data in the context of the business you're operating. So you send that proof, so you're not sending sensitive data. In the blockchain, you have the ability to programmatically expose the amount of data you deem appropriate, whether it's a shielded format of that data, so that sits in public, and it can be used by the company you're interacting with, and you can also send unshielded data. But for none of that type of data, you're gonna show your metadata. That is not disclosed for the public. And you're still using a public decentralized ledger like in any other blockchain. That data will update the state of the transaction or the smart contract, and that is the information that is made available to any businesses operating that decentralized application. So the company cannot collect your data. It can interact with your proofs, go on with their businesses, but they won't collect your data because there is no data. There are only proofs. So instead of transacting data, you're moving proofs around. Proofs around. So how do we do this in the context of Midnight? Midnight is being built to support two different types of resources. One, called Night, is the governance token, and it's how you move value around. And that token generates dust, which is the fee resource that you use to power your transactions. And that resource is shielded. Therefore, you won't have any correlation possible as you do your transactions. And the thing that is in highlight is that Night will always generate dust. It will always create more resources for you to use the chain, so you don't have to go after it. If you have Night, you will have dust over time. And that dust is shielded, so that is protecting your data. Jesus. I don't know where to point this. There you go. So instead of moving data around as we do in the internet and as we do with the typical generations of blockchain that preceded Midnight, you're moving proofs. And if you can abstract your data from the internet, there's no leakage. Even if the proofs are unveiled, they don't mean anything in the context in which they're open. They only mean something in the programmatic context in which they're programmed to exist. So there is a few benefits that we can outline, and there are many more that, as builders come into this space, will unearth. First, it gives back control of data to users. If the data never leaves your device, you have full control of your data. And there might be no situation in which right-click save as will mean something. You rebalance equitability because in the end, ownership means that you have control and you're equitable. Once you can allow people to use your data, you get control of that, you can actually benefit from your data as the companies do today. There is reduced risk of fraud because your data is not floating around for people to appropriate. And you can bring your own credentials around, whether you're a person, a business, or a device. So in the world of AI agents or IoT, it's very relevant that you can have that control at that level. And for enterprises, you can protect IP because your data is not going to be available. You reduce the cost of compliance in the sense that you now can actually obey to the rules of, say, GDPR on-chain, which you could not in other scenarios. You're going to have reduced risk of hacks because the proofs are not the data and they don't mean anything outside of that context. And you can allow the data monetization. Data about your company can actually be sold in a structured manner only for the disclosed participants. So in the end, you're going to ask me, how do I get started? So right now, we have a Midnight Night paper where you can learn more about these types of transactions in detail. There's even further technical documentation on our Midnight Docs website. But more importantly, you can get started on building because we have a live testnet as of last week, 1st of October. And I'll be around all day. We have Claude here as well from the DevRel team. We can answer your questions in further detail. And in the meantime, stay rare, stay weird, LFG.